Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Move for a Movement. I am here with Tina Banchero. She is the artistic director of the Gabriella Foundation, which is the home of Everybody Dance, which offers free or very low cost dance classes in greater Los Angeles to kids, youth, serves many families out there in LA through dance education. So thank you so much, Tina, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm always very excited to talk about the work that we do. It is great work, and I get to see the power of dance education come to life every day, which is really exciting.
I imagine it's so gratifying.
It is.
Yeah. How are you doing in these unprecedented times? We'll just put it that way.
You know, all dance educators and dancers and arts in general have really taken a hit during this pandemic, specifically with regard to funding, with regard to programming and access to the work that we're able to keep doing. So in our after school program, we generally serve about 800 students, but just because of families not having access to internet or not having access to a device, we really saw our numbers go down this year, which was heartbreaking. And we did do some fundraising to try to get a few iPads, a few laptops, and a few MiFi internet boosters, which we were able to get, but it just wasn't enough. So I think that's the hardest part. We're so grateful for the internet, for Zoom, because we've been able to continue our work. And, right now we have about 200 Zoom classes a week happening for youth during the school day and after school. It is a lot of online time, but the kids are still moving, they're still creating, they're still expressing, and that's very exciting. But it is a real wake-up call around equity and access when we all had to switch to an online platform.
Yeah, it reminds me one of my first episodes speaking with someone from Groove With Me Inc. in New York, a similar program, a studio that offers many classes free of charge to girls in Harlem.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying a similar thing, that we can go virtual, but the question becomes, well, do our students have the device and the internet access? And then even if so, do they have space to dance? Are they in a small apartment with like a 7-member family? There are those questions that you can do what you can do, but at a certain level.
I think what has been so exciting is just seeing our team make such a big pivot, and really with this deep desire and passion to keep students moving. And we are developing best practices as we go, so it's been inspiring to see the creativity of our teaching team, the commitment of our admin team to just, wow, how can we make this better? Oh, that's a great tip. Let's share it with this team. And also our students. I have one student who doesn't have any space in her family's home apartment. And so they take tarps up and line it around the carport parking spot in their apartment complex parking. And she has created an outdoor studio for herself, which is just remarkable. And she is a remarkable dancer herself. All of us using that skill that dancers have about being flexible and being adaptable. So we have students that are taking dance in a hallway, in a closet, between 2 bunk beds. We're doing the best we can do. We're modifying, and we're keeping it moving, which is exciting.
I love it. Yeah, and there's dancers with that flexibility and adaptability, and also young people, kids and youth, like, given resources, the resilience and the ingenuity and the adaptability that they can have really can blow your mind.
Absolutely. And I think we've noticed that our younger students, I would say 6 to about 12, have made such an amazing shift. They are the ones that are saying, oh, Miss Tina, you know, if you click on that button, you're going to get this view, you know, and they're giving us tips.
Right.
And then I think the students that have struggled the most are that middle school age bracket, that 12 to 14-year-old student who really developmentally is at that time in their life where they're shifting from the parent-child dynamic into the peer-peer dynamic. And they just miss their friends and they miss interacting,
Right.
that interaction. And I think also it is tricky for them, some of them, to see themselves reflected back. And I've had a number of students in that age bracket that are really struggling with turning the camera on. And I pop in and we go into breakout rooms and we chat. And it's some of that middle school self-esteem issues that pop up. And so we're figuring out ways to work with them and help them move through that to keep them moving and keep them dancing. But it's interesting to see how along the spectrum of the ages we serve, we go 4 years old to high school. Where along that spectrum are students struggling the most? And it, for our experience, is middle school right now.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a tough age overall.
Yeah. Thankfully, we've been able to give a lot of resources to some of those students and families for low cost or sliding scale mental health, because students need that. You know, this is a very different reality, and they need that extra support right now. Some of them really need that extra support. So that's been great that we've been able to pass along some of those resources.
That's really important. That's wonderful. Yeah. So zooming out before COVID a little bit, you spoke a little bit about the mission of Everbody Dance of offering that dance education in accessible ways, low cost, you know, to anyone who needs it in the greater Los Angeles area. I'm curious about if you can speak to one or two or more things, if you're inclined, the way you've seen that real impact and sort of touch points.
Absolutely. Our program was founded in 1999 by Liza Bercovici in memory of her daughter, Gabriella Axelrod, who was a dancer and unfortunately passed away in a car accident. And what Liza realized was that dance was very central to her daughter's sense of self and self-awareness, and she had a passion for dance, and Liza wanted to be able to bring that to all students, so that dance education is very expensive. And so she started with a small pilot program in the MacArthur Park area, which is a very immigrant-based area in Los Angeles. A lot of families from Mexico and Central America end up in that community, and it butts up against Koreatown. And we were very fortunate to get some really great affordable rent for a ballroom and studio space in a low income housing building. And so we started very small with 35 students, and Carol Z was our founding artistic director, and her and Liza were passing out flyers in the park. There's a park right next to it. And we started very small, but we started with very high expectations. So at that time, 21 years ago, there wasn't a lot of high quality after school programming for youth. And so we wanted to introduce a model where students had very high expectations in the programming. And, I believe that all programming is great for kids. We wanted to shift out of what would be maybe more drop-in and into something that was high expectations, uniforms, attendance policy, and parent involvement. So in our
Mm,
after school program, the parents give 10 hours of service throughout the year to help support the quality of the programming. So parents could be helping making costumes, they could be helping to open the door, monitor the bathrooms, but realizing that in order to create a high quality program, there has to be a strong structure, there has to be rules,
right.
and you can't be late, and you have to have your hair up, and you have to have that uniform on so that we can elevate those dance standards in the classroom. Um,
Mm,
and from that little seed, it just grew, and we were able to realize that students in the after school program were hitting higher academic marks because of that structure and focus that they were getting after school. And so we started working with some local charter schools to offer classes during the school day. And then in 2005, Liza started the Gabriella Charter Schools, which are a dance theme based charter school, award winning in Los Angeles. And so for a number of years, we worked together. And now Liza and the charter schools have we're sister organizations. We've split ways, mainly because of the way that funding works, and we realized that it was best to be partners in the community, but not all under one umbrella organization. And the work just continued to grow, and I think specifically in our after school program, it was word of mouth. It was families realizing, like, wow, there's this very high quality programming out there for my student, and it's at a price that I can afford. So the classes are about $2 to $2.50 per class, and we hire only professional dancers or retired professional dancers. So we really have that mission to bring that high quality experience to the students. And as the program grew, foundations and grants and government grants, we were able to show that we're doing this high quality work. We evaluate our students, we evaluate our staff, and we've been fortunate to have a number of generous donors that have helped us keep this work moving forward.
wonderful. Couple things I was thinking. Thank you for that. You really gave a clear picture of what the mission really is, what the approach is. Um, Curious how you were speaking to that after school programming, the more dynamic art space, perhaps as STEAM education, has grown. How even in perhaps Los Angeles and lower income communities, that's become more of a value. Personally, I
Mm-hmm.
think that's great to see, and that's something that we got
Mm-hmm.
to keep pushing forward, like STEAM, STEAM,
Yeah.
STEAM, STEAM.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and in this recipe of high expectations and high resources, like we're going to give you a lot and we're going to expect a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a kind of foundation for going forward in the world, where say you're working for this company and you have all these resources, but a lot of it is expected of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So going out into the professional world, then you're not deer in the headlights. You can thrive
Yep.
with that high expectations but high resources.
Exactly. And I think, our mission is not to turn out professional dancers. However, some of our students go on to be professional dancers. What we really want to focus on is creating a very strong environment for youth to develop life skills, social emotional skills, an
Mm,
understanding of equity. We work with the Search Institute, which is an outside survey organization, to always monitor how our students are doing on the developmental assets of youth. Are they feeling supported, empowered? Do they understand boundaries? Do they have a strong sense of themselves? So we're constantly threading in our classroom experience these other bigger, broader youth development concepts, and that comes through our teaching practice. So, we have 21 years of experience of how can we pull in into this class today elements of a positive self-identity. That could be something very simple, like in your classroom management tools, you're doing a call and response to get students' attention, but it has an affirmation statement. So, hey, everybody, it's getting too loud. I want everybody to say, I am smart. I want everybody to say, I am strong. These little tiny ways of communicating and delivering your content are able to open up the experience for the youth. So it's not just dance technique, kickball change, which is also important. And it is a skill set that's great for students to learn, but they're involved in an environment where we are really working on youth development. In every studio, we have a poster hung that is our We Believe statement. And we start every semester with everyone sits down and we look at the We Believe statement. And this is our mission. We believe that everybody can dance, that the dance studios are spaces where we support each other and we have empathy for each other. And we respect ourselves, our teachers, our studio, no matter what we look like, no matter what languages we speak, no matter where we come from. And the more that the students are in an environment like that, they tend to thrive. They tend to question maybe racist or sexist or homophobic comments that they've heard in the greater world, and understand that in our studios, that's not going to happen. If it happens, we're going to stop and talk about it, and we're going to work through it and move through it together. So it's youth development meeting dance education. And I think that has been kind of the secret of our success, because the students are getting that empowerment as well as, job readiness, those high expectations. I have students many who don't want to be dancers, but they know that they have to show up for interviews 15 minutes early. They know that they need to be completely prepared when they go to an audition, or because they've had this dance experience of presenting themselves on stage and out in the community, they feel more comfortable doing presentations at school or at work. And going for those big goals that they may not have been able to see career-wise within their own family. It's like there's nothing stopping you from being in a university in a high level position. You may not have had anyone in your family in that environment, but we know you can do that. We set that bar high. You can raise up to anything.
And we won't shy away from those difficult conversations that might bring discomfort. Being able to sit in that discomfort, like something said and the teacher says, whoa, we're gonna talk about that for a second. And that being a value of, we're not going to brush anything under the rug, which I think all of Western culture could really use more of.
Yes. And I think, we have a strong commitment to equity, diversity, access, and inclusion. And it's a growing practice. Sometimes I'll hear educators say, well, I feel nervous. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I'm like, it's so important to stop and have the conversation and even acknowledge, I may not have all the answers. I may say the wrong thing, but I want to talk about this because when I heard this being said, it hurt my heart. And let's investigate this together, students. And I'll bring you some more resources if I don't have all the answers. But if we don't, and we just let things keep getting ignored, then we're creating an environment for the students that isn't fully supportive.
Right. And that message of the person in authority, quote unquote, might not have all the answers. They're human, right? They should stay, along with that approach of appropriate discipline. Like, you're going to show up on time, you're going to have your uniform on. People in positions of power are human too, right? And that kind of nuance, I think, is super key for youth development, as you were saying.
Yeah. And I think one thing I say often to teachers, and it took me a long time as a teaching artist to understand, you can always pause. You can always stop. For a long time, I felt like as a dance educator, I had to have these kids moving 24/7. And it's like, yeah, moving is a big part of what we have to do. And we have curriculum benchmarks that we test the
Right.
students on. So yes, they have to move, but
Mhm.
they also have to process. They also have to connect the dots. And pausing for a teachable moment is as important as the big performance, and making sure that your
Mm,
students meet those benchmark assessments. Those teachable moments, it could be the shift in a child's whole reality around their body, other
right.
bodies. Um, I'm thinking of a student who, when she came to us, was nonverbal and
Mm,
had a very tricky time transitioning into the dance classroom. And I was able to talk to my
mm,
this class about how lucky we were to have a student with this type of being in the world. How could we
right.
be a better friend? How could we be a better ally? How could we support this student in being
Mhm.
successful? By the end of the year, the student was communicating, performed on stage. Um, this was huge,
Right.
and the level of understanding and compassion that the students in the classroom had to move through because of her presence was as much of it was as important in the dance education as the dance education that year, so it's really just being mindful of those teachable moments, and it's okay to stop. It's okay to take that pause. It's okay to not have all the answers, and be as transparent as you can with the students that you're working with to help them move through and develop in very strong, healthy ways.
Mm. And that act of pausing, of perhaps responding rather than reacting, that being teachable in itself in a kind of meta way there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what I see is that when we create a culture like that in our classroom and within our teaching teams, then the students start to model it on their own. Sometimes, of course, production, we have these giant recitals with 250 kids and,
Mhm.
900 parents. And I will be backstage, helping folks with quick change, calling cues, getting kids lined up. And I'll look over and I'll see some of my teens, without being asked, helping a younger student. And I'm like, there we go. I see some of my teens come up and say, "Hey, Miss Tina, I realize I'm free during this number and that person needs help with a quick change. I can help." And it's like, there, that's it. You guys are getting what we're trying to do. We're trying to build community. We're trying to be supportive. And that for me, those moments are some of the most rewarding moments, when a teen will turn to another one and say, "Hey, like, what are you doing? We were just asked to come to stage to warm up, and you're still in the dressing room. Like, let's go." And it's not an adult having to remind a student, it's a teen who's saying to another one, "Look, let's make this the best we can. Let's all get on here together."
Mm, proof of concept right there. Just gonna write that up for the NEA.
Totally.
And as you were speaking to, it seems like gathering that data, like because we're in that world that does
Mhm.
have that you need the data kind of mentality.
Yes.
That's there, but
Mhm.
you're also speaking about these more qualitative, like,
Right.
here's the story. Like, if you need proof,
Right.
story in my back pocket.
Yes, yes. And I think in the dance world, we are always in that struggle to find the data to prove what we're doing. And, we do that the best we can with evaluations of our students and assessments and benchmarks. And then there's, I often say to foundation or grant makers or donors, like, come and do a tour with me. Like, just come and see the
Mm,
kids in action, because there's so much that you can't translate into numbers. You have to really just see it in action.
mm. Embodied experience. There's really
Yeah.
no replacement.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious, kind of on the teacher side, or speaking about that in little ways. I'm curious if the professional dancers, the former professional dancers teaching, if they've spoken to, or if you've seen more indirectly, ways that this work has affected them as artists, as people?
Mhm.
Yeah, what impact on the teacher side have you seen that have?
Yeah. We do a lot of professional development. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think, and we also value our teachers and pay them a fair wage.
Right.
So in that regard, we don't have a lot of turnover because, teachers are feeling supported. They're getting the resources they need. They are being paid a fair wage, and they see the value of the work. I will say that um, it's exciting to see teaching artists who come in who may not have a full scope of understanding of equity, but like the idea that kids are getting access
Uh-huh,
to high
uh-huh.
quality dance classes. And then
Right.
once they become part of the program, it's like this opening in themselves happen, and they're like, wow, how can I even go deeper in my understanding to make
Right.
sure that everyone in my space is feeling more comfortable and
Mhm,
safe and has
mhm.
access? What can I do, to make my classroom even more accessible for everyone? And so I think, what I've just observed is really a spirit of inquiry from our teaching team in wanting to go deeper to make sure that we're serving our students well. Um, and I think on a professional level, it's exciting to see some of our teaching artists who, have been performing with very famous musical artists and on tour and getting big level movies or commercials,
Right.
make sure that they still have the time to teach with us. Saying, I'm prioritizing these times during the week when I teach because it's so rewarding for me as an artist to give this way. And I think that's very exciting. They could be choosing to not prioritize the work, and I see it happen again and again, and that's exciting.
Mm. This the old maxim of the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Sort of I saw that in what you were describing, what's
Mhm.
happened with your teachers as that kind of floodgate of understanding and this whole world that's out there that they aren't acquainted with, that they're receptive to just who they are as humans.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
interesting.
And it's always exciting to see a student make those shifts and changes, whether
Huh.
it's in their
Mhm.
um, dance education or just
Mhm.
as a person. They came in super shy and super closed down, and then after a year or two we're like, oh my gosh, have you seen Miranda? She's smiling, she's performing, she's projecting. And you know we are in this field because we love dance and we see the power and the transformational power of dance, but we also deeply believe in equity and access. And so, um, you know, I think all of us in dance education know the power of how much it transformed our own lives, and it's exciting when we get to see kids have access to that wouldn't be able to, just simply because of the price.
Mhm. Mm. And no one should be precluded from that just because, who their family is or any of those types of social or systemic factors that people find themselves in,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
This,
And one thing that's been so exciting for us is that our in-school program has grown so much, and that's where we're really able to scale to larger numbers because the students are
right,
right there. And giving kids this access to get up in the middle of the day and move their bodies and be out of the
right.
desks, um, to think in new creative problem solving ways within your bodies.
Right.
It's amazing when we do have classroom teachers who are really strong communicators, because then we can start to integrate classroom themes into the dance classroom, and we can create dances about the
Mm,
Holocaust, or we can create dances about the digestive system and give students that kind of kinesthetic experience. Those are some really amazing moments in the in-school program, as well as just when educators will say to you, classroom teachers will say, wow, that student is so tricky in the classroom, but they are amazing in the dance space. I am seeing that this kid is a real physical learner. He's
Huh?
super kinesthetically aware. He's taking risks in the dance classroom. And that's really exciting for a classroom teacher who may have more of a narrow vision of one student. Um, so it's just exciting to see more students have access that way. And then when we can, we encourage them, if they really love the art of dance, to join us after school, to go a little deeper in the technical mastery.
I love that. Yeah, education in so many ways could use that kind of broader view of, there's the theory out there about the seven intelligences, and that's starting to shift, just from
Mhm.
my peripheral connection with the education field.
Yeah.
Um, but there's so much that's entrenched, and it might take that teacher seeing, like, one by one,
Yeah.
the ways that when you offer different types of learners those different ways in, when that
Mhm.
student might be discounted, or like, oh, I just don't know how to reach this student. um,
Yes. Yes, and they can't wait for their hip hop class on Friday with Mr. Anthony, and then that becomes an incentive. Like,
right.
okay, I need you to get this bit of homework done. I know how much you love dance. Let's make that priority. Let's share that with Mr. Anthony so he can give you a high five when you come into the dance room because you did that assignment in class, or you
Mm,
got to that next reading level. Um, it does take a community, and I agree with you. We are seeing in education more awareness around the different types of intelligence and more opportunities for kids to express themselves in different ways, which is exciting.
mm, yeah, and going back to that comprehensive holistic youth development, like, the teacher be engaged in those small ways in the child's education can make such a big difference, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm, wonderful. You've spoken a little bit about what you do, like zeroing in on you a little bit more.
Mhm,
But just to ground us in kind of your role and your sort of day-to-day work,
mhm,
things you haven't spoke to already.
mhm.
I'm curious about what your role looks and feels like.
Yeah. This is the first year in probably 23 years that I'm not actually teaching as well. So that was a
Mm,
really hard decision to make because I love
right,
teaching.
right.
Um, but with the shift that had kind of happened, economically, you know, some of our grant funders really wanted to pivot and do direct service for communities around COVID. Um,
Right.
Donor dollars did not appear the same. And so we needed to kind of get a little bit more lean and focus more on fundraising. So that has also become part of my overall picture, just to make sure that this work gets to continue. Um, so I am daily in communication with our teaching team. Um,
Mm,
I check in with Ali Simone, who is our in-school program artistic manager, just to see how's in-school running. My focus is a little bit more on after school, but I'm always there to support the in-school teaching team. And um, I'm kind of in constant communication with our dance site coordinators who run our after school program offices, and what teachers need support, what students need support, are there families that need support, just giving some ideas and shooting out ways that we can help someone be more successful in the program.
mhm.
I do all of our big planning for any program initiatives, you know, registration into our program. We assess the students to place them in the correct levels. So helping in that process, our performances, we do big annual performances, and working closely with the community. So we really believe
Mm,
that in order to be a high quality dance education program, you need to be a part of the dance community, and you also need to be a part of the youth development community. So I work a
mhm.
lot with community partners to help our students have master classes with amazing dancers and dance companies. We have an outstanding partnership with the Los Angeles Dance Project, and they're
Nice.
artists come in and do master classes and summer intensives. We get to take students to go see their performances. We have a great partnership with a number of other youth development-based organizations in Los Angeles, and we figure out ways to partner there. We have partnered with Youth Speaks, which is a poetry-based group, and their kids will come and do poetry, and our kids will perform that, choreography based on the poetry. So that's a big element of what I do. And I also work with our board. I work with our board to keep fundraising and keep our work alive, and helping those that have much see the value in giving to work like we do, and how important it is to the kids in Los Angeles.
Many hats, juggling many balls.
Absolutely.
And I was hearing with that, working with the community, I was thinking of that phrase, anything about us without us isn't for us. I think that's how it goes. Rather than imposing this thing like, we're being so charitable, here's this thing for you.
Right.
That doesn't always actually do great things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've been very fortunate to have strong partnerships with a number of schools, charter schools, public schools, and parochial schools. And what will kind of naturally come out of that is the school community seeing, wow, this access to dance during the school day is very exciting for our youth, and we want to help them have more access after school, and helping them find that fit and making those connections.
Wonderful. There's also, oh Lord, it'll come back to me. I had this little light bulb and then it turned off. Oh, that was it. We're speaking about some of the changing needs in the community. We know for a fact that COVID, the people who have borne the economic and social brunt of this time have been people of color and working class people.
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering if you could speak to a little more. Have you seen the families that Everbody Dance serves, how their needs have changed? And you spoke to it a little bit, but maybe if you go a little deeper, and how the foundation has reacted to that, what you've done to serve those changing needs.
Absolutely. First and foremost, it was access to the internet and to quality devices. So we did our best to give to gather and give out some. During this time, we have had to modify our dress codes and things like that, because we know families are just under a lot of pressure and stress, and this is not the time to buy another pair of ballet tights or get another pair of ballet shoes. And it's like, look, if tap shoes aren't available right now, that's okay. Just be in class on Zoom and work with what you have. And our families have really been hit by COVID, family members passing away, a lot of families getting COVID. And we've been just trying to work with them through our offices to, how can we provide a little more support? Can we waive tuition fees this month? Can we extend our, we have a pretty strict attendance policy. Can we extend that for you so that we know your family was really going through it, and let's give you a break on this. And, we're doing that as much as we can to keep families involved and engaged.
And also Los Angeles, I've heard, with COVID, but also the uncertainty of the public messaging, like malls are open, go support small businesses, but don't but don't go outside, but go support. And with people that are bearing that brunt of COVID, just the uncertainty and the confusion, then be also the dance that is available, if they can come on Zoom, the refuge that can provide for kids.
We have kept all of our programming online. We've been online since last March. And
Mm,
we have decided to do an outdoor COVID safe, small groups, masks on, socially distanced showings, we're calling them this year in May,
right.
just to kind of give our community a light at the end of the tunnel. Um, it is so, it's, as you know, as a performer, dance is a performative art. And so we need to create those moments for our students to have that sense of self esteem, accomplishment, for their families and communities to witness them and the work that they have put into their dance education. So this is new for all of us. You know, we are taking over a parking lot, and we are everyone's going to be social distanced, and you know, we're doing this really for the families as a light at the end of the tunnel of this time period. And
Yeah.
we're not sure if we will be able to be back in person in the summer, but it's looking very likely that we'll be able to be back in person in the fall. So we're trying to keep programming as safe as possible, but also to make sure that we still give students that access to that performance experience.
Mm, yeah, and part of that discipline and all of the wonderful things that dance education brings, that formative experience of performing on stage, working towards that goal,
Yeah,
having something to feel proud of.
exactly. Teamwork. You know,
Yeah.
I often say like multitasking, you know, in our bigger productions when we're in the theater, you know, many of our students take more than one class. So it's making sure your costumes are organized, making sure you have everything lined up so you know exactly what needs to happen next. Those are essential life skills, you know.
Mm,
And so I'm excited for us to do something on a much smaller scale so that it is COVID safe. Outside this spring.
I love it. And I could talk to you all day, but just to start to wind down, I'm curious just for you personally. You spoke to this a little bit, but if you want to expand on what's given you light in this challenging time for you as a person, for you in your role,
Mhm.
what's happening in the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's made you smile?
I mean, the resilience of our students and families have just, it's blown my mind. And our teaching team, that has just been so exciting. In
Mm,
December, we did some live and some pre recorded community gathering.
uh-huh.
And, you know, we did it. We did a performance on Zoom. You know, we figured out how to have kids turn cameras on and families turn cameras off and keep the work going. And some of the really amazing creative choices of our teaching team and our students, you
Mhm,
know,
mhm, uh-huh.
devices being taken on a tour of the apartment and being on the ground and students leaping over. And you know, even though we've been faced with so many challenges, we've really approached it in that creative mindset, like, okay,
Mm,
how can we create something really fun in this space that we have right here? So that has been such a highlight. Just seeing the students and the teaching artists really, you know, take it to the next level. um,
mm,
I think for me personally, as a dancer, you know, I was a professional dancer for about 15 years and was teaching the whole time. It's a very busy, fast-paced life, right? So
uh-huh,
you're
uh-huh.
in rehearsals, you're at performances, you're teaching, you may have to have extra work sometimes, and you're picking up, you know, additional work, whether it's waiting tables or whatever it is. And I have always had a very fast tempo. And when COVID hit, you know, it really forced all of us to slow down. And for me personally, that there's been some really big lessons in that, just slowing
Uh-huh,
down. You know,
yeah.
dancers are very fast tempoed people, and we tend to be doers, and we tend to do a lot. And I do think it's been a time of reflection for everyone on our planet. How can we do things in a healthier way, in a safer way, for our own selves, for our own family, for our own communities, and our globe? You know, our world is saying, hey, we need to do things differently. We need to be mindful of the resources that we have, and that we're not damaging our planet and ourselves, So for me, it's been a good lesson to slow down, and I've been spending a lot more time in nature, which has been really great.
Wonderful. Yeah, I know, even just like on my mat and noticing like in my yoga practice, like certain teachers that go a little slower, and what it feels like to breathe at that more moderate pace, and like how that can bleed out into life.
Yeah,
And then I don't know, like bleed out into the world into certain ways.
exactly.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I think there have been just, amazing pieces of art during this time. I'm
Yeah.
constantly inspired by dance companies, individual solo artists that are making amazing content. It's inspiring. We're showing it to the students. One in particular, there was a group of artists who did a variation from Swan Lake. And
Mm,
it was different ballerinas from all over the world, all different colors, all different types. And that was such an exciting piece of video art to share with the students, because we would never have seen that before. We would never have seen all these different types of ballerinas from all over the world doing this one variation at the same time. And there have been benefits to this time, and I think there've been some really great collaborations and folks reaching out across the world, collaborating online. So
yeah.
I'm going to be very excited to be back in the studio and giving our students high fives and hugs, and back in the theater and seeing live performance. I can't wait. But I do think that, there have been some big learning lessons during this time online.
I feel like a broken record saying that in my reviews, artists really taking these innovative approaches with dance film, and like look at this world
Yes.
of creativity that we're almost like just tapping into, or just tapped into before, and now we're like swimming in and really
Yes.
seeing what's there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mm,
exciting.
I love it. Well, anything else you want to share before we start to say goodbye?
The last thing I will share is a call for that philanthropic spirit in all of us for
Uh-huh,
the arts.
uh-huh.
You know,
Mm,
there is no small amount, really. $10 in our program gives one student 8 dance classes, and
that's
that's $10. So if you're inspired by this work and you believe in it, please feel free to go to our website, everybodydance.org, and click on our donate button. No amount is too small. We really utilize every dollar that comes through, and it is allowing thousands of children to be able to have access to high quality dance education. So please do your best to give when you can, to just, you know, we all know that food and shelter and education are essential, but art is essential. It gives people access to beauty and expression, and so we have to keep giving that to our kids.
it colors our world, which I think this time more than any other. Like there was something on Facebook that I was just like share 5 million times.
Yeah.
Um, you know, try to go through this time without Netflix, without books, without Spotify, without all those things that color our experience.
Yes.
And then tell me that we don't need to support the arts.
Yes. 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 Exactly. Exactly. So yeah. Let's all dig into our philanthropic spirit and give what we can. There's a lot of amazing causes out there, but as you said, we need to keep making sure that there's access to art and art education for everyone.
Yeah. Well, again, I could talk to you all day, and we'll talk again. But thank
Yes.
you so much again for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This conversation resonated with you. Give a comment, a like, subscribe, share it with someone who you think it might also resonate with. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you.